So, Grace, welcome to Honest to God podcast. Would you like to tell our listeners what you do and what you're all about?
Yes, I would love to. So my name is Grace Kim Thorne and I am an end-of-life doula.
Okay, and what is that? Because I didn't know what this was until, about 3 months ago.
Yeah, a lot of people say that. They're like, what? End of life what?
Yeah,
and then they'll say doula. Like, okay, yeah, I've heard about that, when it comes to giving birth. You may have heard of a birth doula.
Yes, I have actually, yeah.
So a birth doula, the role of a birth doula is it's a non-medical role, and they help a woman and partners when they're giving birth. It's a non-medical, like emotional and sometimes spiritual support role.
Love it.
So the word doula itself means woman of service.
Okay, because that was my next question. What is doula actually mean? Okay, woman of service.
Yeah, so, and so there's people that do it at the beginning of life, birth, most important transition, and then I do it at end of life, which in my opinion is, the most important transition we will ever make.
I've got to ask, how on earth did you get into this?
So, as these things happen, we kind of, things happen in our own lives that send us on a journey. For me, it was my son's biological father died suddenly. And I was living in a foreign country and I was alone. It wasn't the healthiest of relationships. And this just suddenly happened. And I just had absolutely no idea how to deal with what was happening. I went through, rage, disbelief, all the different stages. I was so angry. And I literally, I had an 18-month-old son living in a foreign country, had no idea what his wishes were, had no idea about anything. I didn't even know what I was going to do with his body. I had to fly it to a different country. All of these things that you just get, thrown at you. And then at the same time, you're trying to come to terms with what's happening. So, I was thrown in the deep end. And, I just had to go through all the motions. So I had that experience, and then, it rose up again for me when my grandmother died. I was incredibly close with my nan. And, when I found out she had stage 4 lung cancer, and all that, pain and trauma that I did a pretty good job of putting to the side,
Locking it up. It's okay, move on.
I did go through motions and things, but it all came up again, and I was like, fuck. And, as the universe kind of brings things to us, a good friend of mine who was a birth doula, she was in an article, and I was reading it, that she was a death doula. And I was like, death doula?
What is that?
What is this? And I just knew. I was like, this is my calling. This is for me. I don't know why. People still think, when I tell them, I think I'm weird, being a deathy and into all things death. I find it truly fascinating, and I believe that we truly need to demystify death.
Yes.
Oh my God, so
we need to
absolutely.
We need to take the fear away from it. We need to, take control of it. And, a role of a death doula, so someone like me, ways that we can help do that are in helping people plan for death. In the planning, there takes away so much of the fear. If you think about it, like when you go on holiday, how much do you plan?
Depends who you are.
Right, exactly. You're a bit of a planner.
I am, but we were chatting about this last night.
Because I'm a planner, but
Right.
when I go on holiday, I don't.
Okay.
I'm really spontaneous.
Yeah.
But the husband becomes the planner when we go away to be doing stuff and to visit places. Otherwise, I just go, I'll just do whatever.
Yeah.
But actually, in
It's a
booking a
funny
holiday,
one.
yes,
Right.
I'm a planning ninja.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, it's the level of detail. So you're right. Yeah, we do like to plan things. So why don't we plan our end of life?
Yeah.
And is it because people don't like to talk about it. So they go, I don't want to talk about or think about that, so I'm not planning it. But then that's where all of the stress and the worry when they do go.
Yeah, well, it's very
it
much...
leaves it with everybody else.
Yeah. But it's very much a taboo subject.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's like we've been ingrained for it to be negative. It's like, you know, the way we wear black for funerals. And I know people now are a bit more open to, because I know at my funeral I'll be like, you know, wear colours, wear whatever you want, because it's a celebration of life.
Well, have you told anyone that though?
I've told my kids.
Yeah, good.
I've told my kids.
It's communicating these things.
My family know.
Yeah.
My family know. Colours.
Yeah.
Jocelyn Brown, Ministers to the Funk, Believe, Rave, Glow Sticks.
Yes.
Buried with my thumb in my mouth. Happy.
Okay, good.
It is in my will as well to be buried with my thumb in my mouth, because I sucked my thumb till I was 21, so I'm going to do it as I go.
Oh, I love it.
And cremate me. I always remind my husband, I was like, where are you scattering me? He's like, oh, for God's sake, half on Crosby Beach, half at Cape Tribulation in Australia. That's going to be expensive. I'm like, yep.
But you'll be able to give him the money for it before you go, so that you'll leave it in the savings
hopefully.
account. But I don't. When did you decide that? Was that after you'd had your breakdown?
No.
Years
a
ago?
long time ago. So when I got my first house, and my granddad, actually, bless him, he's 90 odd now, but he was one of the very first online will writers, believe it or not. I'm going back 20 years ago. So when I got my first house, my granddad sorted out our wills for us, and it is thumb in mouth for burial and get cremated. That is in my will. But I don't know but actually that will was with a former partner, so I think I actually need to update it and do another one. Unfortunately, my granddad doesn't do it anymore. So I need to find somebody. Or maybe I just need to get Grace on the case.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm impressed that you have a will. So
well, I did. I don't know if it still stands. Like I say,
will.
It's an out of date will. I know that me and my husband definitely don't have one, but
well,
we need
everyone.
to.
I mean, if you speak to people and you say, you know, do you think you should have a will? Everyone says, of course, you know, that's necessary. Yeah. Yet 52% of people, only 52% of people have a will. Yeah. So that's like half of the UK that die without a will. And that's people not, you know, it creates so much confusion with siblings and... You know, and the only reason we're not doing it is because we don't want to talk about it, or we think that we're immortal.
And like, we go, that's good. Yeah? That's like when I'm old, we'll just leave that till later. But we don't know.
Well, statistics show that 100% of us will die.
Really? Oh, for God's sake.
Well, honestly, like, it's just crazy.
It is. Yeah.
We need to talk about it, and like back to planning a wedding. Like years of preparation, a birth. Like I've got a 13-month-old India. Yeah. I did a birth plan. I was so, you know, I don't want this injection. I don't want people, you know, talking. I had a home birth. I was in the water. Like I was so specific, and I set those intentions with what I wanted. And you know, I'm of the belief as well that what you put out, you will attract. And in the planning, you know, if you can visualize, because death doesn't have to be scary. Like it's like I've been with people. It is the most beautiful when, you know, it doesn't always go that way, but it can be the most beautiful, most connected you will ever feel. Like it's truly.
I wanted to ask though, because obviously you're talking about being able to plan for something, and there are certain circumstances. You talked about your grandmother. Obviously, she knows that she's got cancer. She knows it's stage 4, and she knows that, you know, how long was it for your grandmother once she found that out? Was it?
It was a year, right? But even though we knew it was coming, it's always a shock.
Of course. Yes. But then on the flip side of that, you were talking about your former partner, and that's sudden. So I suppose in those scenarios and those situations, having a plan for your end of life care acts like it's not just a will, is it? It's what you're saying is you kind of need to be prepared with those end of life wishes to stop the confusion for the people that are left behind, to kind of sort it out. But also, if you are in a scenario, in a situation where medically, clinically, health-wise, you know that your time is limited,
Yeah.
that's also at a point where you can think, right, I'm going to start to put a plan in place.
Yeah. So, you know, what I go through with people, it's not just a will. And I'm of course, I'm not a lawyer, but I can guide people to go and get the correct information. But getting your advanced care plan or your advanced care directive in order. So if something was to happen to you, doesn't need to be death, but, you know, do you want to be on life support? You know, do you... Who's going to take care and make decisions for you, you know, rather than having siblings kind of decide, did mum want this or not, and feel the guilt for the rest of their lives, perhaps. You know, it could just be written down.
Yeah.
And that advanced care plan, is that something that... I've got a friend who's kind of going along this path at this moment in time, and I know that she's been discussing with her doctors and her consultants her care and what she wants to do moving forward with her illness. When you talk about an advanced care plan, is that something that somebody in that scenario would discuss with the doctor, or is that something that anybody can put together?
It's something anybody and everybody should. Yeah. Like, you know, also, if you're a parent, who's going to take care of your kids as well? That's an important one. But yeah, advanced care plans, you can get them on the internet, you know, and you can just keep it in a safe place. You know, but what it does is you can, you know, that will be given to your doctor or whoever you're working with, and it just can bring up some important points that you've never would have thought about, and actually you don't want to think about it. You know, no one wants to sit here and think about that for themselves or anyone they care about. But in doing so, it's a selfless act, I believe. You know, and if you think, okay, who do I want to make the decision, me or my son? Me all day.
Take the decision out of his hands.
Also, isn't it really important, once you've done something like that, you know, to not just hide it in a drawer, but to share it with your family? I've done quite a lot of work with organ donation and transplants. I've worked with Transplant Sport, who celebrate people who've had organs donated to them, and the families, the donor families. And I know the law has recently changed in the UK. Max and Kira's law came in early 2020, so that you have to opt out of being on the organ donor register. However, your family still have that final say. So if you haven't told your family what your wishes are around organ donation, even if you're on the register, they could still say no. And that actually might go against your wishes. So I suppose what I'm asking is, that advanced care plan, if your family don't know it exists, they've got to know, and it's a really difficult conversation. And I remember when we did this campaign with Transplant Sport about have the conversation with your family. So it was Easter Sunday, we were all sat round the dinner table, and it was like, can you pass me the gravy? By the way, if I have a car kit and my body's in a position where it ain't working anymore, but you can donate any of this and it's going to help somebody live, make sure all you buggers say yes. And that was it. And they were like, all right, you weirdo. Okay.
But you know what? I have had conversations with Mark and the kids about that as well, to say, I think it's just come up. I don't know how, because we do have really open conversations in our house. And because I always say, I don't want the kids to ever think bad stuff about, you know, the future, or, you know, even with the whole thing about COVID, we don't really talk about it because I don't want it doesn't need to affect them. As in, they know what's going on, but I don't want them to worry. There's no point, because it's all about, you know, just living in the present moment. But we have had these conversations, and my kids definitely know that I want to donate my organs. I think we've discussed it a couple of times, because I've gone, just give it all away, whatever works, give it all away, because you do want to help people. And I don't know whether that's coming from a place of service, because we were talking about values earlier on, weren't we? And one of mine is service, and I think women do like to serve a lot anyway.
We give a lot of ourselves to others. We think about ourselves.
We do.
We think about others.
And I think naturally, I don't know whether it's my personality that I just want to, of course, my organs go to somebody else, because if someone needs one, give it to them. But other people can go, oh, no. And then that's everyone's choice, isn't it? But letting people know what your choice is, so that does happen.
I think that's like exactly what it is. It's choice. And we all have, you know, so much choice. And at the end of life, we have so much choice as well. You know, a lot of people express that they want to die at home. They really can. You know, things have been very medicalized, and, you know, everything's been given over to the death professionals. So it's like being in hospital, being in hospice, handing everything over to funeral directors. You know, you can have your own funeral at home. You can bring a body home. You know, you can have
can't bury
the body
it in the garden, though, can you?
You can't. If you've got a decent sized plot of land,
Can't whack it in the log burner, can you? Sean, you're going in the septic tank, babe. I'm going to save an absolute fortune.
But I think it is just that. Like, we spend our whole life deciding every minute detail of how our life goes, and then at the end, it's just left up to, you know, to the professionals. And there is so much freedom in making those decisions.
Absolutely.
And we can make light of it, you know. You know, we really can. If it is a difficult thing to bring up sometimes, but a way that people can do that, you know, the older generation as well, especially don't like talking about it, you know. But it is important to have these conversations. So, you know, if I ever want to kind of speak to someone about death, I'll start with me. You know, I'll just say, you know, I was listening to, you know, a song, whatever feels and you tune into it, right? But a song was playing on the radio over here, somewhere over the rainbow, that played at my nan's funeral. I want that played at my funeral. Have you ever thought about, you know, how you would want that to go for you? How you'd want to create that end of life celebration? You know, and then that can kind of bring up some conversation. But I just feel that there's so... it's just such an important subject, and the more we kind of just speak about it,
the more we be honest about it. That's kind of the whole ethos of this whole podcast, is about being honest. And I know it's difficult. And I had a moment. So my husband got a good job, and we always joke about his death benefit because he works on overhead power lines. So, you know, it's always, well, remember, if I fall off my bike, go and shove me at the bottom of a power line and ring up work, because I'll get, you know, death in service benefit. And his dad works for the same company. And but when I was going through my breakdown and I just was super sensitive to everything, the two of them were talking about death in service benefit and all this. And I flipped out at them both. I was like, do you not understand? I don't want to think of either of you passing away. And I really was upset about it. And when my son was born, you're both mums, you've probably done this yourselves, you know, those first 6 weeks, constantly by his cot, checking that he's alive.
Is he alive?
Still do it now, every night before bed, go and touch the chest, make sure they're alive, they're alive, we can go to sleep.
I go like that, so that they move, and then wake them up. It's like, oh, you're okay.
But it's what we do as mums. It's what we do as mums, you know. But that fear was very real in those first 6 weeks of my son arriving on this planet. Like, oh my God, he's going to die. I'm in charge of this human. And death was terrifying. And I'd got to this point where I didn't talk about it. And I feel really blessed because speaking to you is amazing and definitely helps. And oh my goodness, you've given me so much food for thought. Sod doing my tax return on the next life admin day. I'm going to do my end of life plan and make sure that everybody's having a rave and a party at my funeral. Because if they're not doing it, I'm going to haunt them forever, the bastards. But I met somebody 18 months ago, Professor Susan Black. Have you ever heard of her? No. So she is somebody who has helped lots of different cases. She's been involved in like Bosnian war crimes and identifying bodies. She's a scientist, but she's also written a couple of books. And she talked about her grandmother's view of death, and it had always helped her. And I heard this story and instantly got goosebumps and shed a little tear and thought, oh my goodness, how beautiful. Her grandmother believed that death walked with you side by side, linking arms. And then at some point in your life, she will take you into her embrace in a sidestep and you will go with her. And she always had viewed death as a woman, not as a male figure, that grim reaper holding, you know, the weapon and the scary scream mask. Death was a friend. Death was somebody you walked with your whole life, and one sidestep could take you into her arms at any point. And that visualization was so powerful for me and made me think, oh, actually, it's going to happen to us all at some point.
It's a massive reframe.
It's a massive reframe.
And if you can just get someone to go from the Grim Reaper and that whole thing of anxiety, because I know my sister is always thinking about my mum and dad passing away, and it really stresses her out. And I keep saying to it, it's taken you from today, it's taken your life, you're worrying about something that's going to happen in the future, so you're not enjoying today. So that for someone like my sister, who she won't mind me saying, I'm not going to say her name, because I want her to be out of that pain. I don't like it seeing her anxious, because one day we're all going to go, and then we all just connect back later on with wherever that
I think if
is.
you have those beliefs, you know, so for me, I'd be shit scared of death if I thought it was the end.
Yes.
Of course, yeah.
But I don't. I know she's going to sweep me up and we're going to go have a party
Where
somewhere.
are you going? Tell us more. I want to know more about your beliefs on this, because... And I want to know, so obviously you're hinting that you don't believe that this is the end. Neither do I. I hope we're going to have some awesome rave somewhere. But for you, being in that very special, proud, honourable moment of being there with somebody when they go, has that shaped your views? Have you learnt anything from those moments where people leave?
Yeah. Just the value of every moment, like you're saying, and the value of life. And it's funny, at the end, you know, people don't talk about regrets a lot.
Well, I was about to say, have you read The 5 Regrets of the Dying?
I haven't read it, but I
can't remember what they are, but it's
full of regrets, basically.
It's usually around things like working too much, not being true to themselves, caring what other people think. It's all those themes.
It's not regretting the things that you've done.
It's what you didn't do.
It's what you didn't do. Yeah. And so it's that, and people just, you know, wishing they'd been that bit more present, wishing they'd been on that holiday and not so obsessed about work, and, you know, but at the end of life, wow, what happens to a person? They open the fuck up like a flower. Yeah. Like, and all of that resistance and anger, and it just goes, and you look into someone's eyes and they are pure love.
Yeah.
And you can see it. You can see how close they are, like when you look into a baby's eyes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going.
Yeah. I mean, I'm
such a softie. I'm going.
Oh, we didn't get tissues.
Oh, full snot.
It is.
It's connection, isn't it?
It is.
Thank you, producer Jacob, with the tissues. There we go.
There's people that'll be listening now, and they'll be like, I know that because they've been there and they've been lucky enough. And I say lucky because if you have experienced that, it is a blessing. And when, you know, and this is what, you know, I'm so passionate about death education. We need to bring death back into the home. You know, only 100 years ago, you know, we had someone was given birth in one room, Nan was dying in the other room. It was in and out. It's just life and death side by side. That's what it is. But we've separated it. Yeah. We've taken it away, and it needs to come back in. And I believe it will come back in the next 10 to 15 years. There's this silver tsunami. So with the baby boomer generation, the aging population, there won't be enough places, you know, aged care facilities, beds in hospitals. There won't be. There's going to be too many old people. They're going to need to be cared for at home. That's where people want to be anyway. Yeah. We just need to get better at it. Yeah. And we will get better at it.
And plan and give ourselves the skills to be able to organise it so that we're not stressed with it and it's pleasurable. Yeah. As pleasurable as can be.
Yeah. Well, there is joy in it. And the baby boomer generation, they've always been the movers and shakers. They've done things differently. And right now they're seeing their mums and dads, you know, being taken care of in ways that they're not happy with. Yeah. You know, getting these cookie cutter funerals and things that they're like, oh, that wasn't mum or dad, that was just weird. Yeah. You know, and they will be the generation that does it differently. And I believe it will change everything. Yeah. You know, also in regards to, I've got some info here from Before I Go, this incredible Jane Duncan Rogers. She's actually my mentor, and I'm doing a course with her.
So this is a book, and what's it called?
It's called Before I Go, The Essential Guide to Creating a Good Life Plan. So as of next year, I'll be facilitating online and in-person courses to help people do their end-of-life plans. But so in the UK, the estimated cost for one day of community care at end of life is £145, compared with $425 if they're in hospital. So I mean, the savings are like millions and millions of dollars.
In the economy as well.
In the economy as well, which people care about. I just want to see people just happy at end of life. And what does that mean if you tune into it? You want to be at home.
Yeah, of course you do.
It can't always happen. Yes, we know that. But even in, I've been in hospital settings, you create the space. And that's where, someone like myself can come in and, just help the family. The doula is not just for the dying, it's for the family and the loved ones. Whether it's making a cup of tea, giving some Reiki if someone needs it, or, saying, okay, yes, you're in a hospital, but bring in her favourite blanket, bring in the photos, get the LED candles going, get some lavender in there, create the space for the journey, basically.
Yeah. And that energy, because again, it's everything is energy.
Yeah.
We are all vibrating at a certain frequency, so that calm and energy gives that person a sense of calm, basically. And I know, because a lot of my friends are nurses as well, and they do a brilliant job, and they are nurses because they love helping people, and they talk about when someone's dying to keep talking, because the ears keep working, don't they? They never stop, and the person can still hear you. So it's all about that having that lovely environment and speaking to them like they're still there, because they can still hear you, and that's just relaxing. And then having someone like you in there, or someone who's got that presence to be able to facilitate it, because obviously emotions are high, aren't they, or they're all over the place, but to be conscious that person can hear you. So absolutely, please just don't show them that you're stressed or anxious. Make it nice, because it can be nice. It doesn't have to be stressful and sad.
There's a really good book by a girl I know called Tabby Kerwin, and her partner passed. She said she has this phrase: he lived with cancer. He didn't die from cancer. He lived with cancer. Simon. And she talks in her book, it's called The Three Taboos, and she describes the moment where the two of them together helped him transition from this world to the next. And he was a musical person, and he led bands, and the very special piece of music that he'd had commissioned for their wedding, they played out, and she just knew intuitively when it was time, and she got the CD player out, and she held him and put that piece of music on, and reading that and realising in that moment, that was also a really pivotal moment for me. I think I needed these lessons to get over my fear of death, realising how beautiful that moment could be. The way she wrote about it, I felt like an honour that I got to read that and be part of it as a reader. But it also made me realise it doesn't have to be terrifying at all. You get to, in certain circumstances, I must say, in certain circumstances and certain deaths, you will have an opportunity to curate, like you said, the space that person wants to hold.
One of my first experiences when I was doing my doula training was similar to that. So it was an at-home funeral, and the gentleman was a pianist, and his sister had created a space. She had what she didn't have there, angel wings and pixie dust, and it was the most beautiful ceremony. We were welcoming the angels from here, there, and everywhere, and I was like, oh wow, this is incredible. And he was laid out in a shroud, and we played, the brother was on one end, he played the drums. She had chakra xylophones that you lay out on the body.
Oh, wow.
So she laid out on his chakras these xylophones, and we played them.
Oh my God.
And we're playing this music around his body, and it was like, I'm getting it again now. It was just absolutely incredible.
Never heard of that one. That sounds really good.
And this is
it's energy again, isn't it? It's like,
and it's. I mean, what we can create, and we can do, what we want, and there is joy in the creating of it as well. And it's just truly amazing.
It's like as we said before, it's like, when you get excited about planning for a wedding or planning for a baby and planning for like your 40th, your 30th, your 50th, people wouldn't think of, and get excited about, I'm going to plan for my death. It's like, but we could actually get quite excited
if we change the mindset,
what it will look like.
Yeah.
I think what you want it to be. Like, it might not necessarily, but that whole celebration of life.
That's
it.
When
you've gone, it's like, I would definitely want that.
Yeah.
In my head, I know the music and everything, but I don't think I've thought about the finer detail. But it's,
Well, I think a little task for me and you, Claire, thinking of the finer details.
Yeah.
We'll have a little life admin day and we'll put our plans together, because actually I do think it's really important. My sister's got my passwords. She knows to delete the Facebook account. She knows to get rid of all the evidence.
Yeah, your electronic will. I mean, the amount of things that we have stored electronically.
Digitally, Well, I've just invested in LastPass. You heard of LastPass, to store all your passwords, and on a family membership. So my husband's got access to it.
Isn't that a really good idea?
Yeah,
so it's an app, is it, or
it's an app? It's an app where you can. I did it because I got hacked, so I had to change my passwords because I didn't fancy getting fleeced out my bank account. So I did it as a security thing. But then as I was doing it, I thought, actually, this is quite clever, because if anything was to happen, because when my granddad passed away. It was a blinking quick save carrier bag, it's that long ago, full of envelopes, stuff written on there. And I remember my nana saying, I've got no.com. And she'd ring up. She was trying to sort out his HSBC bank account, and in a thick Wigan northern accent, I've tried ringing that HSBC. You got to press number 2, and nobody's there, and you got to go on .com. I got no.com. And it was really stressful for her, though, to try and sort out an admin nightmare. That's what it was, an admin nightmare. And oh my goodness, if I was to go today, those poor family members of mine, it's going to be an admin nightmare. Yeah. It really is. So
and we don't want that for the people we care about. We want them to be able to grieve and be,
and know
to
that
go
all
through.
That stuff's done.
Yeah.
And that is, again, I'm looking at, your books are right there, and I'm thinking about planning in everything. So that it's not reactive for the family. You're being proactive, aren't you?
Yeah. So then, like you say,
and then you've got peace of mind.
Their wishes. There's no arguments, particularly if you're in a big family with siblings and lots of strong characters, because emotions are high when people are passing away. It's it's to be expected. Well, before we wrap this absolutely amazing episode up,
I could chat all day about this. Loved having you here.
What do you wish people knew and understood about death?
It's a good question. My hope is that people understand that it's not the end, because in that it allows, people won't be scared. If I believed it was the end, I would be terrified. If I believe it was just nothing, but, and it's not for me to put my beliefs on anyone, but create it.
Yeah.
Create what you want it to be, with people that have passed. Create a connection because they're there, so look for your signs. For me, it's manan, it's dragonflies, bees, feather, whatever it is, a song that comes on. When you create that connection, it just allows joy, and it just takes the sadness away. So, my wish is that people connect, and create that for themselves.
And where can people find out more about you?
So they can follow me on Instagram. So I'm the Dead Positive Doula.
That's dead scouser. The Dead Positive Doula.
I know.
I love it.
It's just come up from being here, of course.
Oh, bless you. I love it.
I'm dead positive in life and dead positive in death.
That's brilliant.
So the Dead Positive Doula, absolutely, I'm going to be doing a lot more content, and really looking forward to running these courses in the new year.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Grace
so
Kimball,
much.
Thank you so much for being our
pleasure.
amazing guest on Honest to God.